To enter program mode, you have to have the system fully powered down. That's done by the key override at the bottom of the unit. You then turn the system to the on position, and that will then display on the LED display the version number of the system. The SecurityGuard's radio key or remote control has two functions. When we're in programming mode, which we're going to cover now, we use the buttons to cycle through the programming options, select them and save them. Once we get into the programming, as you'll see, we use the left key or the unlock key to step through all the programming options. The right key or the locked key will be used to select the option, and then the panic button will be used during program mode to save that option. When you first power up the SG3, you have 10 seconds to push either the top left or top right button on the radio key to keep the system in program mode. If you don't push any buttons within that 10 seconds, the system will time out and go to normal operation. As the SG3 powers up into learn mode, if we push the top left off button, it will cycle through the controller programming options. However, if we push the top right, the on button, it will then take us into learn mode where we can learn in more detection devices. We'll now have a good look at learning in devices into the SecurityGuard 3. As we said, once we power the SecurityGuard up, we have the learn flashing on the display. The next step, we then push the on button or the top right button on the radio key to enter into the learn programming mode. Once we enter device programming mode, the ready will now flash on the display, and while it is in ready mode, it is waiting for a learn in signal to be automatically sent from one of the detection devices you wish to program in. While the SG3 is in ready mode, to learn in a wireless PIR, as soon as we insert the batteries, it sends an enrolment signal to the SG3. The same is also for door or window contacts. With wireless reed switches, again inserting the battery will send an enrolment signal. For additional radio keys, panic buttons, doorbells, etc., because we can't get to the battery, what we do for those is push the panic button or the button for 8 seconds, making sure you hold the button down for the full 8 seconds to send the enrolment signal. This is irrespective of what light comes on when you first push the button. Make sure you hold it down for a good 8 to 10 seconds. As will a wireless smoke detector. Again, inserting the battery sends an enrolment signal. Once a controller has received a learn in signal, the display will now display the new sensor or key number on the display. New devices are added to the next available slot. Up to 23 additional sensors and radios keys can be added to the SecurityGuard 3, and as they're added, they'll automatically be added to the next vacant slot. Once a new device has been added, you can press the on button on any valid radio key to view a sub-menu options for the new device. Alternatively, you can press the off button to go back to learn mode to learn in new devices. Depending on what the devices we've learnt in, the sub-menu will vary. We'll first of all have a look at the sub-menu for radio keys. When the on button or the top right button of the radio key is pushed to go into the sub-menu, the first option we'll get is key. This is the default for the 4-button radio keys, so when selected, the radio key or remote control will work as normal with the arm button, disarm, panic and auxiliary buttons working. To cycle through the options, we press the top right button of the radio key again, or the on button, and this will cycle through. The next option displayed will be duress. If duress option is selected, then your panic button on your radio key or your radio device will activate a silent alarm and will not activate the siren. Again, pressing the on button on the radio key will then move you to the next option, which is medic. Medic, which is short for medical, works very similar to the duress alarm. However, instead of sending a duress, we'll send a medical alarm when the key panic button is pressed. Pressing the on button again will move us to the next option, which is bell or doorbell.
The doorbell function allows for a wireless button to be programmed in that when activated will activate a bell chime rather than alarm. Pressing the on button on the radio key again moves us to the next option, which is no pan or no panic. When no panic option is selected for this radio key, it totally disables the panic button. Pressing the on button on the radio key again moves us to the next option, which is erase. When erase is selected for the programmed radio key, it will totally delete that key out of the system. After using the on button on the radio key to cycle through the options of key, duress, medic, bell, no panic, erase, etc., when you get to the option you want, you then press and hold the panic button for about 3 seconds, and it will then lock in and store that option for the key that you're wishing to program. We'll now have a look at detection devices, whether it be a motion detector, door or window contact, of how they can operate within the system. Once we've learned a device in, we then can press the on button on the radio remote, and that will take us into a sub-menu. We're then using the lock key again, we can cycle through the sub-menus of the various options that are available to us, whether it be alarm, chime, fire, etc., and we'll have a look in more detail of what these options are, but each time you hit the right arrow we cycle through one option at a time. Once a detection device has been learnt in and we push the right button on the radio key to go into the sub-menu, the first option we get to is alarm. If the detection device is programmed to be alarm, then the detection device is active when the system is armed and inactive when the system is disarmed. This is a default setting. Pressing the on button on a programmed radio key will then move us on to the next option, which is home, which means the detection device will be active when the system is both in the home mode as well as fully armed mode. Pressing the on button on the radio key again will next move us to the next option, which is Home 2. In Home 2 mode, the detection device will be active when the system is in home mode or Home 2 mode as well as fully armed mode. Pressing the on button on the radio key again takes us to the next option, which is fire. If a detection device, typically a smoke detector, is programmed for fire, then it is active 24 hours a day. Regardless if the system is armed or disarmed, it will still be active. Again, pushing the on button on the radio key takes us to the next option, which is chime. In chime mode, the detection device is active and it will give you a warning when the system is disarmed. However, the detection device will not be active in the armed home or home 2 modes. Pressing the on button on the radio key takes us to the next option, which is a chime, standing for alarm chime. When in the alarm chime mode, the detection device will be active and can generate an alarm when the system is armed. However, when the system is disarmed and the detection device is activated, it will just activate a chime on the SG3. The next option after pushing the on button on the radio key is home chime or H chime. This is very similar to alarm chime, however the chime will only occur when the SG3 is in home mode. When the system is fully armed, it can still generate an alarm. Pushing the on button on the radio key takes us to the next option, which is H2 chime. H2 chime is almost identical to H chime, however it will activate a chime signal when the SecurityGuard is both in the home and home 2 modes. When the system is fully armed, it can still activate an alarm. The next option is silent. If a detection device is set for silent, it will activate the dialer, however there will be no local sirens activated. Pressing the on button on the radio key again takes us to the last option for programming in detection devices, which is exclude or erase. This option will vary depending if you're programming sub-menu options for the main PIR on the SecurityGuard or additional detectors. If you're programming the main detector, then what will happen, you'll get the exclude option, which means when you select it, it will disable the onboard PIR. However, if you're programming submenus for additional detectors into the SG3, you'll have the erase option, where this allows you to erase the detection device from the SG3. So once you've selected the option that you wish this detection device to work under, you press and hold the panic button to save it. So in recapping of how to learn in a new device into the SG3, when we first power the system up, it goes into program mode and we'll have the learn LED or learn display flashing. We want to select that option, so we push the top right button on the radio key to select it. We'll have the ready light flashing, ready waiting for a signal. We then send an activation or a learn in signal from the detection device we wish to program in. The display will then display the slot number or sensor or radio key number that's learn into. We can then press the top right hand key of the radio key again to select the submenus, and we can then select how we want that device we've just learned in to operate.